Welcome to another field testing video. Today we are going to take this guy, a 1.4 Teleconverter by Sony, for a ride. But before everything else, let's understand what they are. A teleconverter or an extender is basically an extra piece of glass that you add between your lens and the camera to get some more reach. Basically, a cheaper way to increase the focal length of your camera. It's more like a magnifying glass. Of course, they sound really convincing because they are super cheap ways of getting more reach as compared to directly investing in a telephoto lens, which can get you that reach. But they have their advantages and disadvantages like everything in the world does. What kind of extenders are there in the market? What do they do? How good are they? What are the situations in which they come handy? What are the situations in which they should be avoided? If you would use them on a zoom lens or not? And the low light performance too, along with how the autofocusing system of your camera performs with an extender slapped on. In today's video, we are going to discuss all of that. First things first, all lenses would work better without extenders than with extenders because, well, extra piece of glass, remember? So there are usually two kinds of teleconverters or extenders. 1.4, which increases the focal length by 1.4 times and stops your aperture down by one stop. And then you have a 2x, which makes your focal length exactly double and stops your aperture down by two stops. And that's a lot of loss of light, trust me. Now let's do some math. If you're on a full frame camera, let's say a 200-600 lens, then adding a 1.4 extender will result in a 280 to 840 millimeters on f8 to f9 instead of f5.6 to 6.3. And if you are on a crop sensor, take into account the crop factor also for the increase in the focal length. Now I usually use it on my 400mm f2.8, so I get a 560mm f4, which is pretty manageable. Let's deal with the ultimate question first. Now an image shot by a 200-600 on, let's say, on 280mm with a 1.4 TC, which gives a reach of about 400mm, and an image shot on 400mm direct, well, have a look yourselves. There will be a difference in the quality. Now let's get started with the field testing. Okay, so it's time to test the teleconverter on the 200-600 zoom lens. So right now I am on 200 and I'm going to shoot on 1.4x, which is going to make my f number 8. Now here is an example of f8. The focusing is okay. Light is pretty low, so camera is struggling a little bit to focus, but then again it caught the eye finally. And then we are going to shoot the same image on 600mm, and automatically if it's f9 now because we are on a 1.4 teleconverter. So there you go. Let's see how the autofocusing performs. Okay, there you go. Alright, so autofocusing is okay. Not that bad, but again the proper test will be on a fast moving subject. So here are a couple of kingfishers that I shot when the light was considerably low. So at that time also with the teleconverter there was not much of an issue, but when the kingfisher was flying or when the kingfisher was landing in the low light, then there were a couple of times wherein we encountered the problem. When we used the teleconverter on 400, the problem was not that much as compared to 200-600, but still for the kind of reach it is giving you, comparing to the amount of shots that you're missing, like 1 in 10 or 20 shots, it's still fine. So I think that way it's okay if you kind of invest in a teleconverter. Concluding the entire thing, if you want to use them in a considerably good light. If you want to use them in low light, make sure the low light capabilities of your camera are good so that you can compensate the loss of light on a TC with bumping your ISO up. Try and avoid using them with considerably cheaper lenses because quality and autofocusing takes a considerable hit. If quality is not your concern and just reach is, let's say you are a bird watcher taking record shots of species that you see, go ahead, slap in a 1.4 or 2x, whatever you have, and enjoy.